Hi, this is Toby, and in today's video I want to show you how to code a very simple moving average crossover EA for MetaTrader 5. Let's go. Okay, so here we are in the MetaTrader 5 platform. Now, before we start coding, let's just define what we want the expert advisor to do. So this will be a very simple EA, and if you are new to mql5, you can just follow my steps and we will create a fully working moving average crossover expert advisor. Okay, so we got two moving averages here on the chart, and let's say the fast moving average, the blue line, crosses the slow moving average, the red line, from below. Then the EA should open a buy position right here. And the opposite for sell positions. In this case, the EA should open a sell position. So we will also add a stop loss and take profit to the EA. And we will also do some input variables, like for the periods of the moving averages, so you can test different values. Okay, so let's start coding. So let's just click on Tools, MetaQuotes Language Editor, and here we will create a new expert advisor. And this one is our first EA we did in one of the last videos, but today, of course, we want to create a new expert advisor. So we click on New, top left corner, expert advisor template, and we just name it moving average, for example. Click on next, and finish. And here we got our new template. Okay, so first of all, I always like to clean up a little bit because I don't like the formatting of the template. So we can delete the first 5 lines because the gray text is just a comment and it's not important for the code to run. It's just for the programmer to describe the code. You can also delete these comments. Also delete this. It doesn't do anything with the code. It's just, I think it's better to look at. Okay, and we also don't need the last line here. Okay. So now let's start coding. So first of all, we want to add some input variables so we can set the period of the fast moving average and the period of the slow moving average from outside the program. So let's start by adding some input variables. We copy this section, create a new section with this nice looking comment. We call it input variables. And let's create a input integer. Input integer. Let's name the variable input fast period. And we set a value of 14 as default. We also add a comment after the input variable so we can display this comment outside. It just looks a little bit nicer if we display fast period instead of this variable name. Okay, we do the same for the slow period. We set it to 21, for example. And now we compile, check if we got any errors. Everything looks fine. Now we can switch to the MetaTrader platform. We can take a look here in the navigator. You can open the navigator on View Navigator. And here under Expert Advisor, you may have to right-click, refresh. You'll find your Expert Advisor. And if we drag it on the chart, that's a little bit big. Okay, so here we got our EA, and we already see, if we click on the Input tab, our two input variables with 14 and 21. Okay, let's close this again. Now what I like to do is to check the input from the user, because we don't want a 0 or a negative number for the period. So the best way to do this is in the onInit function. This function is executed once, the EA starts, and this is the perfect place to check for the user input. And by the way, if you want to know more about a function, a predefined function, you can just select it and press F1 on your keyboard, and this will bring up the definition. And there are also, most of the times, there are examples how to use this function and a clear description. Okay, so now let's just write a if statement. If input fast period is less or equal to 0, then we want the EA to display a message. We will use the alert function for this. Alert and fast period less equals 0. And we also want the EA to stop at this point, so we write return, and the reason, because the reason we stop the EA is because the parameters are incorrect. Okay, so now let's compile. Everything looks fine. Now we can check this. We switch to the MetaTrader platform. We again start our EA and we enter 0, for example, for the fast period. We press OK and we get a message with the arrow. That's perfect, and the EA does not start. Okay, so we do the same for the slow period. And of course, the fast period should always be, or the slow period should be greater than the fast period. So we enter another statement, and if the fast period is greater or equal to the slow period, we also want the EA to stop. Slow period. Okay. So this should prevent all incorrect inputs from the user. We can compile. Okay, so the next step would be to get the indicator values of the fast and slow moving average. So for this, we create a new section and we call it global variables. And here we define two handles. Fast handle, slow handle, and we set these handles in the onInit function. That's very important to do it only once and not, for example, in the onTick function. So after we check for the inputs, we just write fast handle, and we use the function from MetaTrader, MA function. And here we need to set the symbol. We just use the current symbol, so underscore symbol. We need to set the period. We will use the current period. We need to set at a time frame. We need to set a period. So this will be our input fast period, which is 14 at the moment. But of course, if we change it from outside, if we set 20, for example, then this also will be 20, and we got a 20 moving average for our crossover. Okay, The next input for this function is the shift. We don't use a shift for this EA. And we also use the simple moving average calculation method, and the price will be close prices. Okay, so this will give us a handle, and with this handle we then can receive the values for this indicator in the onTick function later. So maybe we write a comment just to make clear what the code is about, and to help to structure the code, we just write create handles, and here we write a comment check user input. Okay, now we can compile again, and we also need to check if this function failed. So this function gives us a return. We store it in a fast handle, but if the fast handle is a invalid handle, then we also want the EA to stop. So we write another alert for the user. Failed to create fast handle, and we also return, but this time we just say init failed. Okay. So we do the same for the slow moving average. So we just copy because we are lazy. Copy and paste. We change the handle. We change, of course, the period, the input period. And here we also write slow. Okay. This should be it for our handles. And now we can receive the values for these indicators in the onTick function. But before we receive the values, we also need to delete the indicator handles. And we do this in the onDinit function. This function is called only once the EA is unloaded from the chart. So here we can write if fast handle is not a invalid handle, we can release indicator, release the handle just like this. And we of course also do this for the slow handle. Okay, let's compile. Perfect. And now we can get the indicator values. And for this, we need two more global variables of type double, a fast, let's call it fast buffer, and this is a dynamic array, and of course also a slow buffer. So in this array we store the values for the fast moving average, and in this array we store the values for the slow moving average. Okay, now we can go to the onTick function. And here in the onTick function, this function is called every time we get a new price or a price change. So here we can copy the latest values from the moving average into our buffer. So we just use the copy buffer function from metatrader. We set the handle. The buffer number is always 0 if we use a moving average, because the moving average has only one buffer and the index starts with 0. The start position is also 0, and the count is 2, because we need 2 values for the fast moving average and 2 values for the slow moving average in order to detect a crossover. Okay, and then we set our buffer, and In this buffer, we just store the values. And now the copy buffer function returns the count of the copied data. And of course, we want to check if we have enough data. So in our case, 2 values. So we just define a variable which stores the amount of data. And then we check with a simple if statement if values is not equal to 2. We just want to return. And we also maybe write a print statement for the user. Not enough data for fast move average. So, and we also write return. This function is a void function, so we don't need a return value, we just return. And we also do this for the slow moving average. So here we of course write slow handle and we set the slow buffer. We also don't need to define values. This will give an error. We do it like this because we already have the same variable here. So we just use the variable like this. And here we also write slow. Okay, now compile. Perfect, no errors. And now we have our 2 values here in the fast buffer and our 2 values in the slow buffer. And one thing we need to do is to set the buffers as series. So the indexing starts from 0, the current bar, and the previous bar is 1 and 2 and so on. We do this in the onInit function. We just write array set a series. We write our buffer and true, and the same for the slow buffer. Okay. Compile, and now we got our values and we can check for a crossover. Now before we check for a crossover, maybe we just print or display the values of the indicators on the screen so we can check if everything works as expected. So we use a comment for this, the comment function, and we just write fast 0 fast buffer index 0, because this will be our latest indicator value. Then we want to make a new line, and the next line we write fast 1. So this will be the previous value of the fast moving average indicator. And then we do the same for the slow values. So we can just copy, because again we are lazy, so slow buffer. We don't need the next line. The last one, we just close the bracket. Okay, so now we can compile, and now we check if our EA is working so far, if we get the correct values, and after that we can check for the cross. Okay, so let's switch to the platform. The best way to check this is using the strategy tester. So we click on View, Strategy Tester. And now here we select our expert advisor. So we go to YouTube moving average, EA. We select a symbol, a time frame. We just want to use a few days of data for this test. And we also check the visual mode because we want to see the values. Okay, let's press start. Now we have here our data window. You can open this data window, just click on view data window. And if you select the crosshair with your middle mouse button, and then you can see all the values in the data window according to the bar. So we take a look at the last bar, and we see here the MA14 value is 1.0531. If we take a look here, the fast zero value is 1.0531. So that's the same value. And also for the slow moving average, also correct. And the previous value for the fast moving average is 0.530. That's also correct. So we get the right values for both moving averages. And now we can close the tester, go back to our language editor, and we can check for a crossover of the moving averages. So to check for a crossover, we just need a simple if statement. So let's just take a look at this in Paint. We got bar 0. This is the current bar. And the previous bar is bar 1 or index 1. And of course, we got the fast moving average. Let's say on bar 1, the value is here. And at the current bar, the value is here. And also we have the slow moving average, which also has a value at bar 1 and also a value at bar 0. So in order to detect a crossover, we just need to check these two values. So if the fast value is below the slow moving average value for bar 1 and at bar 0 it's above, then we can be sure that we have a crossover, because the fast moving average went like this and the slow moving average like this. So here we got a crossover, and in this case, of course, we want to open a buy position here. Okay, so let's write a if statement for this condition. So the fast is below the slow moving average for bar 1. So we just write if fast buffer is below or equal to the slow buffer, and of course index 1, and here for bar 0, the fast buffer is above the slow value. So we write and fast buffer 0 is above slow buffer 0. So then we got a crossover and we want to open a buy position. Okay, maybe we write a comment. Check for cross. And here we write get indicator values. And in order to open a buy position in MetaTrader or in mql5, the easiest way is to use the ctrade class. So you don't need to understand this right now. We just need another variable. So we go up, we write C trade, and we call the variable trade. And now to use the code from the C trade class, we need to include the file. So we create another section. We call it include. And we need to write hashtag include and the directory of the file, which is, I think, trade /trade.mqh, like this. Let's check, compile. Perfect. Okay, so we need to include the file. We create a variable of the cTrade class, and now we can use the trade variable to open a position. So we just write trade and now dot, and here we have a lot of functions we can use now, and we write open or position open, and we need to define the symbol. So of course for the current symbol we want to buy, order type buy, volume 1 lot, the price we want to open the position is of course the current ask price if we want to buy. So we will create another variable here just to get the ask price. We use the simple info double function. We define a symbol. We want a symbol ask price. Okay, so now we have this current ask price here in this variable ask, and now we can use this variable here. A stop loss. Let's just don't use a stop loss for now. 0, a take profit 0, and a comment. We can write cross EA. Okay, so this should open up a buy position for us. Let's compile and check. So if we start the visual tester, we should see a buy position if the fast EA crosses the slow EA from below. Okay, so that's perfect. And later we also need to make sure that we only open one position per bar. Okay, so of course we do the same for the short positions. So we just copy the section, check for cross sell, and we just reverse these conditions. So if the fast buffer, the previous value, is created in the slow buffer, and the fast buffer, the current value, is less than the current value of the slow buffer, then of course we want to enter a sell position. And a sell position, for a sell position we need a bid price. So we just change this to symbol bid. And we also use the bid price here. And of course type sell. Okay, let's compile. We check again. Now we should open buy and sell positions. Okay, right here we got a cross and we opened multiple sell positions. So let's make sure we only open one position per bar. For this we need another variable to store the current bar open time. So we go up here to our global variables section, and we create another variable of type datetime, and we call it open time by. We also set it to 0, and we need another one for the sell positions. So in this variable, we will just store the open time of the bar we opened up the trade. And for another trade to enter, this variable needs to be different than the current open time of the bar. So we just add it here to the if statement. And open time by is different than the current open time of the bar. So to get the current time of the bar, we can use iTime. We specify the symbol, the current period, and the shift. So we want the current bar, so the current bar is 0. Okay. The same for the short positions. Of course, we use the open time sell variable. And as soon as we enter this if statement, we then set the current open time of the bar to this variable. So the next time, if we are still at the same bar, these two values are equal, and we will not open another trade. Okay, so open time by equals, let's just copy this here, like that. The same again here, open time sell. Now let's compile, and let's check if we only open one position per bar. Yes, okay, so here we got only one sell trade, one buy trade per bar, another one the next bar, because we have another cross. Okay. Now, as I also mentioned in the beginning of the video, we will also add a stop loss and a take profit to this EA. So, because now we got the trade entry, it's pretty much finished. But of course, we also need to exit the trades. So let's add a stop loss and a take profit. So we go to our input section, and we add a input for the stop loss. And let's set it to 100. And this will be in points. So that's just easier for this EA. And call it stop loss in points. Another one for take profit. We set the take profit 200. These are just the default values. Of course, we can change them from outside. Okay. Now we also check the inputs of these variables, the user inputs here. So we just copy one of the if statements, and we check if the stop loss is negative or 0. Let me just alert the user stop loss below 0, and the same for the take profit. Because if a trade only goes in our direction, we will not get out of the trade. So we also need a take profit because we don't have a time exit for this EA. Okay, now let's go down. And here we now have 0. And we now can enter here a stop loss and a take profit. So to calculate the stop loss and take profit for the buy position, we just write a variable stop loss, and let's make this all lined up. Okay, so we use the ask price, and if we have a buy position, of course the stop loss is below the current ask price, so we subtract our input and we multiply it by the point value of the symbol. So symbol info double, again the symbol point. So here we got our stop loss. Now we do the same for the take profit. It's of course greater than the current ask price, so we add our take profit value. And now we can use these values here. Okay, let's do the same for the sell positions. And here, of course, we need to take the bid price for a sell position. The stop loss is greater than the current bid price, and the take profit is below. So we also change these values here. And now we compile and test if we got a stop loss and take profit. Let's wait. Yeah. Here we have a buy position and we got a take profit of 200 points and stop loss of 100 points. Now we open the trades and we close them. Okay, so that's it for our EA. We got our stop loss, take profit input and the input for the moving average periods. Now let's just do a quick final test. We switch to the strategy tester and we uncheck the visual mode. We can switch now to the input tab here and test different values. For example, 5, 10, 100 and 500. And of course you can test different time frames and symbols. So let's press start and switch to the equity graph. Of course, if you want to trade a strategy live, you should always test it for yourself. And how to do this? I've made a playlist. I will link it up here. How I test my strategies and my trading ideas. And if this video was helpful for you, you can leave a like and you can write a comment if you have a question about coding, about this EA, or just in general about automated trading. And of course, if you don't want to miss future videos, you can subscribe. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.